A group of noisy students crowds around the school's main bulletin board, creating a commotion as everyone eagerly tries to find their results. Some frantically search for their names on the list, while others are crushed by the realization that they have failed. Among the crowd, a teenage boy with messy black hair, striking eyes behind glasses, and a reserved expression approaches the board. He quickly finds his name, Horyuji Izumo, at the very top of the list, signifying yet another distinction. Nearby, two lively girls bounce with excitement, one of them proudly announcing she's made it into the top 10. When Izumo turns to glance at them, the girls panic and immediately apologize for being noisy. Izumo reassures them that it's fine, but reflects on how people have always been intimidated by him. His unusual eyes and quiet demeanor have made him the subject of many rumors, though in reality, he's just a socially awkward teenager. Feeling dejected, he resigns himself to the thought that he'll never have fun friends or a cool girlfriend, and tears silently fall down his face. From a distance, a striking red-haired girl named Anastasia von Drakenville watches Izumo. She decides that he is the perfect first target for her, as she is a succubus, a demon that seduces men. Later that day, after returning home from his emotionally draining day, Izumo is startled by Anastasia's sudden appearance in his room, now fully transformed into her demon form. Her purplish horns poke through her hair, ornate black wings spread out behind her, and her pointy tail wags mischievously. She's dressed in a provocative black outfit, complete with a spiked choker featuring a metallic skull. Standing in the glow of a glowing pentacle surrounded by smoke, she greets him playfully, calling him a virgin boy. To her astonishment, Izumo remains indifferent, casually greeting her in return. Confused, Anastasia questions why he isn't freaking out, as most people would in such a situation. She then explains her purpose: she's there to take his virginity and insists he should feel honored. Izumo stares at her blankly for a moment before politely declining and sliding open the window, indicating she should leave. His calm demeanor unnerves Anastasia, who demands to know why he isn't scared. Izumo replies that he is scared but doesn't show it outwardly. Frustrated, she dismisses his reaction and insists they proceed. However, when she lies on his bed and tries to seduce him, Izumo hesitates and tells her she's not his type. Furious, Anastasia exclaims that he's awful and questions what's wrong with him. A week later, Izumo finds himself even more exasperated by Anastasia's constant presence. She has made herself at home in his life, lounging in front of his TV and passionately playing video games on his PlayStation. Leaning against the doorframe, Izumo asks irritably when she plans to leave. Anastasia responds matter-of-factly, stating she won't leave until he gives her his virginity. She reveals she faces punishment from Master Lucifer if she returns to hell without claiming a virgin soul and visibly shudders at the thought. Izumo, frustrated, mentions that his parents are getting the wrong idea about her presence. He groans at the memory of his overly enthusiastic parents. His mother has started preparing breakfast for her new daughter, while his father proudly boasts about his son's success. Anastasia, meanwhile, continues to behave like she owns the place. She walks out of Izumo's room one morning, yawning and stretching in a half-buttoned shirt and a sleeping cap, greeting Izumo's father with a cheerful papa and asking where Izumo is. His father casually informs her that Izumo is at school and asks why she doesn't attend. Puzzled, Anastasia takes a moment to recall what school is, eventually remembering that it's where she first met her target, Izumo. Izumo's father expresses dissatisfaction over Anastasia's lack of schooling, remarking that his son's future wife should be well educated. Intrigued by the idea, Anastasia decides she'll start attending school. She dresses in a school-appropriate outfit, completes the look with a bag to emphasize her schoolgirl image, and prepares to leave. Izumo's mother, believing that her son is romantically interested in Anastasia, lovingly packs her a lunch, while his father wishes her luck. When Anastasia arrives at the school, she pauses to stare at the building before making her way inside. However, her entry is blocked by a bald, muscular man holding a staff, Kongo Takaru, a teacher at the school. When she tells him she's there to attend, Kongo asserts that he knows every student by face and doesn't recognize her. Anastasia crosses her arms and boldly declares that her boyfriend is inside, warning Kongo to step aside or face the consequences. Kongo, raising his staff, challenges her, but Anastasia lightly pokes him, causing him to collapse in pain. As she smugly steps past him, Kongo mutters in disbelief, calling her a demon. Inside the classroom, students are engrossed in their lesson when Anastasia suddenly slams the door open with such force that it creates a loud bang, drawing everyone's attention. She blatantly announces her arrival by declaring she's here to sleep with Izumo and points at him. All eyes in the room shift to Izumo, who struggles to explain the situation but quickly realizes it's a lost cause. Frustrated, he orders Anastasia to go home and warns her not to return. The class, however, is in uproar, unable to comprehend how someone as unusual as Izumo could attract such a stunning and exotic girl. Rumors about Izumo having a gorgeous, red-haired foreign girlfriend spread through the school like wildfire, leaving students baffled and in disbelief. As the gossip circulates, a girl with long, thick blue hair tied neatly in a bow and large brown eyes listens in from a distance. Her name is revealed to be Amanagawa Hina, and she is visibly upset by the rumors. Two boys nearby discuss the news, with one struggling to believe the story. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, the principal sits at his desk, flustered and drooling. When Izumo questions what Anastasia did to the principal, the man grants her permission to attend school. Anastasia avoids answering Izumo's question, simply stating that her plan worked and walking out with a smug grin, leaving Izumo speechless at her audacity. Later that day, Izumo and Anastasia ride the train home. Izumo is absorbed in his book while Anastasia stretches and yawns, complaining that the school day was boring. Izumo curtly tells her not to come again, but Anastasia slides closer to him with sparkling eyes, suggesting they watch a movie together. Although Izumo initially refuses, saying he needs to study, Anastasia protests and pleads until he reluctantly agrees. Overjoyed, she tugs on his arm and sweetly thanks him, calling him darling. They visit a cinema in Shinjuku to watch a movie. However, Anastasia pays little attention to the screen, her thoughts entirely focused on Izumo. She leans closer to him, trying to make her move, drawing the stares of nearby audience members. Annoyed, Izumo points out that she's not even watching the movie. Anastasia brushes off his comment and suggests they kiss, leaving Izumo flustered and stammering. The next day during gym class, the boys play an intense game of basketball while the girls cheer them on. One girl, with her hair in a tight ponytail, enthusiastically cheers for a boy named Ishikawa Hinata, who skillfully scores a point. Proudly flaunting her boyfriend's success, she asks Anastasia if her boyfriend is just as cool. Irritated by the lack of recognition for Izumo, Anastasia, in a fit of jealousy, uses her succubus powers to cast a charm spell, releasing heart-shaped magic that makes all the boys swoon. She then cheers for Izumo, urging him to make a basket. Holding the ball, Izumo dryly remarks that this feels like cheating, clearly unimpressed by the situation. Meanwhile, at the Amanagawa residence, Hina Amanagawa sweeps the floor, lost in thought. Her expression is solemn as she contemplates the rumors about Izumo. It's revealed that Hina has feelings for him and is heartbroken by the idea that he's already been stolen before she could confess. She begins to daydream about Izumo, admiring his intelligence and recalling how she's deeply attracted to his quiet, serious, and focused demeanor when he's studying. Hina's growing feelings leave her both inspired and despondent. Hina tightly grips her broom, her emotions boiling over as she contemplates the situation. She sorrowfully thinks it's unfair that Izumo has been taken by another girl, convinced that her own genuine feelings should give her a chance. Her attention shifts to Anastasia, and she wonders why no one else seems to notice Anastasia's horns and tail. Realizing that Anastasia must be a demon, Hina grabs her sacred bow and makes a solemn vow to stop her. Meanwhile, Anastasia notices a girl crying in the classroom as her friends try to console her. When the girl, under pressure, confesses that a guy has been harassing her, Anastasia rushes to inform Izumo. Breathlessly, she explains that there's a guy bothering girls in the school. Izumo responds apathetically with a dull okay, frustrating Anastasia, who tries to impress upon him the seriousness of the matter. When Izumo advises her to report it to the teachers, Anastasia angrily calls him stupid, explaining that her real goal is to improve his reputation. Izumo, confused, asks why she's so interested in his reputation. Anastasia admits she wants to date the most popular guy in school. Later, Anastasia and Izumo hide behind a wall, spying on a blonde guy with multiple piercings and a skull pendant around his neck. The guy, identified as Ruji Nakamura, has his arm slung over a girl's shoulder, and it's clear she's uncomfortable. Anastasia whispers to Izumo that Nakamura is the one harassing girls on campus. Izumo asks her what they should do, and she leans in to share a plan. Meanwhile, Nakamura pressures the girl to give him her number, causing her to reluctantly agree, tears forming in her eyes. Before things escalate further, Anastasia boldly intervenes and demands to know what's happening. Nakamura, recognizing her, taunts her by calling her Izumo's girl and mocking her for being bored of him already. He then tries to touch Anastasia, prompting her to loudly yell that she's being harassed. Izumo steps in, placing a firm hand on Nakamura's shoulder and warning him not to touch her. Nakamura, undeterred, challenges Izumo to a fight. While Nakamura is distracted, Anastasia uses her demonic powers to subtly purge him of all his negative thoughts. The next day, Nakamura shows up to school completely transformed. The once sleazy troublemaker has turned into a polite and devout Christian, with his skull pendant replaced by a cross. He greets everyone cheerfully, leaving the entire school puzzled by his sudden change of personality. As the sun sets, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Izumo and Anastasia walk home with their backpacks. Anastasia persistently begs Izumo to buy her ice cream, but he adamantly refuses. Suddenly, an arrow slices through the air, narrowly missing Anastasia. Both of them swivel around, startled, to find Hina standing in the alley, her sacred bow drawn. The low sun casts her shadow dramatically on the road as the wind blows through her long blue hair. Hina declares she's there to exorcise Anastasia, calling her a demon. Izumo looks at her with concern and asks why she's shooting arrows at them. Hina warns Izumo to stay away from Anastasia, reiterating that she's a demon. She knocks another arrow and prepares to fire, but Anastasia steps forward, telling Izumo not to worry, as she'll handle Hina herself. Anastasia blows a magical kiss in Hina's direction, but instead of being charmed like the boys during gym class, Hina coldly asks what Anastasia just tried to do. Anastasia is shocked that her demonic powers have no effect on Hina. Hina pulls back her bowstring, declaring that it's time to send Anastasia back to hell. Before she can release the arrow, a police officer approaches the scene and angrily demands to know what's going on. The officer orders Hina to lower her bow and reprimands all three of them for causing trouble. Izumo, however, starts to sweat nervously. He's preoccupied with the thought that if they're taken to the police station, he'll lose valuable time he could have spent studying. Panicking, Izumo does something completely uncharacteristic. He grabs both Anastasia and Hina by the wrists and bolts, leaving the bewildered officer behind. Now stuck between two arguing girls, Izumo endures their bickering. Hina accuses Anastasia of seducing him, while Anastasia demands to know who the annoying girl is. Izumo sighs deeply, realizing this is going to be a long night. Izumo, clearly irritated by the bickering between Anastasia and Hina, snaps at them to be quiet. Both girls are stunned into silence by his outburst and stare at him in disbelief. Izumo bluntly continues, saying he doesn't care if they fight, as long as it doesn't inconvenience him in any way. Feeling embarrassed, Hina quickly apologizes for her behavior. The next day, gray clouds blanket the city, and soon soft snow begins to fall. Anastasia, completely fascinated by the snow, rushes to Izumo, who is deeply engrossed in his books, and asks what the white stuff falling from the sky is. Izumo looks up, surprised, and asks if she's never seen snow before. When Anastasia innocently questions him about snow, he explains that it's like frozen rain. Enthralled, Anastasia shares that in hell, everything is constantly ablaze, so nothing ever freezes. Izumo nods, understanding her amazement. On their way home, Izumo walks quickly, nose buried in his book, while Anastasia trails behind, pelting him with snowballs. Regretting his decision to teach her how to make snowballs, Izumo sighs in frustration. The next morning, Izumo's peaceful sleep is interrupted by his alarm. As sunlight streams through the curtains, he realizes that Anastasia has abandoned her futon and climbed into his bed during the night. He orders the drooling, soundly asleep Anastasia to return to her futon, but she doesn't stir. Giving up, Izumo gets ready for school, bundling himself in warm clothes and wrapping a furry muffler around his neck. Before leaving, he announces his departure, and his father cheerfully tells him to take care. Outside, Izumo sees Hina waving at him enthusiastically. She greets him with a bright good morning, and they walk to school together. During their conversation, Hina discovers that Anastasia isn't actually Izumo's girlfriend. Izumo explains that Anastasia refuses to leave his house, much to his annoyance. Hina, overwhelmed with relief, accidentally blurts out that the revelation makes her feel better. When Izumo asks her why, she becomes flustered, unable to admit her feelings, and hurriedly excuses herself, saying she'll see him at school. At the school gate, the bald teacher Kanga Takeru stands guard with his staff, greeting students as they enter. When he spots Izumo, he nods in acknowledgement but freezes upon noticing Anastasia clinging to Izumo's arm. Remembering their last encounter, Takeru discreetly whispers to Izumo to meet him in the office later. Izumo reluctantly agrees. Later, Izumo visits Takeru's office, where the teacher insists that Izumo learn self-defense. He informs Izumo that he'll now be participating in Kendo practice, a modern Japanese martial art. Still engrossed in his book, Izumo barely reacts until Takeru shouts at him to put the book down. Soon, Izumo is dressed in a blue giant hakama, holding a bamboo sword. Takeru begins instructing him, and they practice Kendo together. That night, Anastasia stares at the sleeping Izumo with intense longing. She thinks about how innocent and pure he looks, and her desire to claim his soul becomes nearly unbearable. Reflecting on the fact that it's been 2 months since she began pursuing him without success, she resolves to find a way to melt his heart soon. The following day, as they wait at the train station, Anastasia excitedly asks Izumo if he notices anything different about her. She's dressed in provocative clothing, hoping to catch his attention. However, Izumo barely glances at her and asks what's supposed to be different. Anastasia, disappointed by his indifference, instead attracts the attention of other men. One sleazy man approaches her with a business card, asking if she's a model, while another suggests she's too bold for a schoolgirl and invites her to skip school with him. Disgusted by their advances, Anastasia orders them to leave her alone, emphasizing that she has no interest in non-virgin men. She then uses her demonic powers to teach them a lesson, leaving them visibly shaken. Later, Anastasia is thrilled because it's lunchtime. She excitedly shows Izumo a noodle hot dog she's holding, calling it delicious. Izumo, unimpressed, remarks that eating too many of those will make her fat. Hurt by his comment, Anastasia's face falls, and tears stream down her cheeks. The other students glare at Izumo for making her cry, causing him to wonder if he said something wrong. Realizing he needs to fix the situation, Izumo awkwardly tells Anastasia that he doesn't care if she gets fat or not. Anastasia's anger fades, and she forgives him, no longer upset. Back in class, Izumo struggles to focus on the lesson while Anastasia pesters him by pointing out a restaurant in a magazine and suggesting they go there for dinner. She also asks him to pay for her meal. Reluctantly, Izumo agrees just to stop her from bothering him. He then asks her to quiet down, reminding her they're in class. Anastasia apologizes loudly to the entire class for disrupting them, promising to be quiet from now on. Hina, watching the two from a distance, feels a pang of worry. She realizes that Izumo has unknowingly agreed to what sounds like a full-fledged date. Determined to intervene, Hina decides she has to save him. Later, Hina approaches Izumo and asks if he's going to Harajuku. Surprised that the cutest girl in the class is talking to him, Izumo tries to tread carefully. Without thinking too hard, he bluntly asks if she wants to come along, leaving Hina momentarily stunned. Izumo mentally kicks himself for being too blunt after inviting Hina to join him and Anastasia. Hina, however, agrees to come without hesitation, but later begins to second-guess herself. Creeping doubts invade her mind. What if Izumo is expecting a double date with both Anastasia and me? Shaking off the thought, Hina reassures herself that Izumo is too innocent for such a thing. Later, the trio arrives at Takashita Street, a vibrant and bustling shopping district. Anastasia is visibly annoyed at Hina for intruding on what she considers her date, while Hina internally resolves to stay vigilant. Hina admits to herself that this is her first time in such a crowded area, while Anastasia remarks on how many people are there. The overwhelming sea of strangers stirs up Izumo's social anxiety, but Anastasia grabs his hand and suggests they try on clothes to distract him. Reluctantly, Izumo agrees, and Hina, not wanting to be left out, quickly follows, insisting she's coming along too. Inside a boutique, Anastasia selects an alluring outfit, a pair of stylish overalls and a cute t-shirt, while Hina opts for a trendy but slightly eccentric ensemble. Anastasia turns to Izumo, eagerly asking what he thinks of their outfits. With his nose still buried in a book, Izumo absent-mindedly says, "It looks good," without even glancing up. Frustrated, Anastasia demands he look up, declaring that two adorable girls are waiting for his opinion. After shopping, the group stops for some street food. While they eat, Anastasia suggests skipping school the next day and doing something fun instead. Hina immediately objects, arguing that Izumo needs to study and that skipping school is irresponsible. Sensing that another argument between the two is about to erupt, Izumo quickly interjects with the first thing that comes to mind: "I'm hungry." Though awkward and out of place, his statement successfully diffuses the tension, much to his relief. Meanwhile, Anastasia's charm has made her immensely popular among the boys at school, sparking jealousy among the girls. A group of mean girls gossips about her, with one snidely remarking that Anastasia is dating the weirdo Izumo. A short-haired girl named Miyu suggests they send a message to Anastasia that she's not welcome. The next morning, as Anastasia walks into class, she notices several girls staring at her. When she reaches her desk, she finds it vandalized with mean scribbles and graffiti. The group of girls, led by Miyu, snickers, expecting Anastasia to break down in tears. Instead, Anastasia turns to them with a devilish grin that sends a chill down their spines. To their shock, the male students immediately rush to clean up Anastasia's desk, obediently scrubbing away the graffiti as if under some sort of spell. Anastasia smugly declares that this isn't over, leaving Miyu and her friends fuming. Later, Anastasia excuses herself to go to the restroom. Seeing an opportunity, Miyu and her gang hatch a plan to humiliate her. They follow her to the bathroom and, while she's in a stall, they fill a bucket with water and dump it over the door, expecting her to come out drenched. Laughing, they hide behind a corner to watch her humiliation, but to their shock, Anastasia emerges completely dry and unfazed. Bewildered, the girls return to the stall to investigate, only to find smoke wafting out and the phrase "nice try" graffitied on the wall alongside a demon emoji. Hina, trying to mask her frustration, asks Anastasia where she plans to go after school. Anastasia casually replies that she's headed back to Izumo's place. Overhearing this, Miyu and her gang seize the opportunity to make condescending remarks, ridiculing Anastasia for her boldness. They sneer, calling her a brazen girl and insinuating that she must be involved with multiple people at once. Miyu, smirking cruelly, leans in and mockingly asks Anastasia, "Are you going to cry now?" Anastasia, unfazed, calmly responds, "Not really." This response only fuels the trio's determination to break her. They escalate their taunts, hurling more offensive remarks in a deliberate effort to shatter her confidence and humiliate her. When Miyu maliciously whispers that Anastasia must be selling her body for money, Anastasia simply chuckles and responds that the girls are a lot of fun. Fed up, Anastasia uses her demonic powers to shred the trio's clothes to ribbons, leaving them standing naked in the hallway as other students stare in shock. The humiliated girls burst into tears. Izumo, passing by, notices the commotion and asks Anastasia why her friends are naked. Avoiding the question, Anastasia brushes it off, saying the girls are just weird and suggests they head home. Enraged by the humiliation, Miyu decides to text her older boyfriend, Shibuya Tokyo, despite her friend's protests that it's going too far and could lead to suspension. Despite her friend's objections, Miyu impulsively texts her boyfriend, Shibuya Tokyo. Meanwhile, in the depths of hell, jagged cliffs rise ominously, and rivers of fire flow endlessly through the landscape. Chains rattle as long lines of sinners are marched along perilous paths by demons. A group of these demons kneels before Lord Lucifer, who sits regally on an enormous throne, clutching a scepter. Clad only in a loincloth, with massive horns protruding from his head, Lucifer radiates an imposing presence. One demon diligently fans him with exaggerated zeal. Lucifer's sharp gaze sweeps over his servants, and he notices something amiss. "Who's missing?" he demands, his deep voice echoing through the fiery halls. One of the demons nervously replies, revealing that Anastasia is absent. Upon further inquiry, Lucifer learns that she is still pursuing her first target, Izumo. Outraged by her lack of progress, Lucifer deems her failure unacceptable. He commands one of his subordinates to retrieve Anastasia immediately and bring her back to hell. The demon obeys without hesitation, disappearing into the mortal world to carry out Lucifer's orders. Back on Earth, Miyu meets her boyfriend, Tokyo, at a dimly lit and shady location. Tokyo, who is significantly older than Miyu, sits surrounded by empty bottles, drinking and smoking heavily. Uncomfortable, Miyu timidly suggests they move to a different place. Tokyo glares at her and responds with an intimidating tone, asking if she has a problem with the way he drinks. Nervous and fearful, Miyu lies, saying it's fine. Tokyo softens slightly and cups her face with one hand, leaning in close. Don't worry, he assures her, his voice low but commanding. I'll take care of whoever's been bothering you. Miyu, caught between gratitude and unease, quietly thanks him, knowing he plans to act on her complaint.